Now, we are being criticized for having gotten the G20 to focus on climate change, and I'm being lampooned all over, globally even, and even being prevented from participating in the next G20. We have a voice in the community of nations, much as others would like to silence our voice. Our voice as South Africans will always be heard because it is respected.
In a bold move that has sent shockwaves globally, South Africa, a founding member of the G20, has declared it will take what its presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya calls a commercial break from the forum while the United States holds the rotating presidency under Donald Trump. But make no mistake, this is no mere pause. This is a powerful statement of self-respect and sovereignty that echoes across our continent. For too long, we have watched as our leaders are disrespected, our policies undermined, and our very humanity questioned. President Cyril Ramaphosa and the South African government have endured insult after insult from the Trump administration, from baseless accusations of white genocide to attacks on policies designed to correct centuries of colonial and apartheid-era racial inequality. When South Africa championed a G20 presidency centered on solidarity, equality and sustainability, values that speak directly to the aspirations of the global majority, Washington not only rejected these principles, but actively boycotted the Johannesburg Summit. Now, USA's Secretary of State Marco Rubio has confirmed that South Africa will be excluded from all G20 engagements during America's presidency, despite being a founding member of this crucial economic forum. This is not just about South Africa. This is about the systematic marginalization of African voices in global governance structures that were supposedly built on multilateralism and mutual respect. When one of Africa's most influential economies can be cast aside so casually, it reveals the fundamental inequality baked into these international institutions. Magwenya's statement that South Africa will resume normal programming when the United Kingdom takes over the G20 presidency next year shows strategic patience, but it also raises profound questions. If this trend continues, if powerful nations can simply exclude members they disagree with, what becomes of the G20 itself? The forum was created to bring diverse economic powers to the table, not to serve as a platform for the West to dictate terms to the rest of the world. Should more nations from the global South follow South Africa's example, we could witness a fundamental restructuring of global economic governance. The G20 could fracture, lose legitimacy, or collapse entirely as an effective forum. Already, we see alternative structures emerging, BRICS expanding, African continental integration deepening, and South-South cooperation strengthening. South Africa's move could accelerate this shift toward a truly multipolar world where African and developing nations no longer accept secondary status. President Ramaphosa recently, during the 20th Ordinary Meeting of the Presidential Climate Commission, he also touched on G20. Let's listen to this speech.
Let me start off with a disclaimer. You have caused me considerable trouble as a commission on two counts. The first count is that, and I'm rather glad that you took it back to the Job Summit. The Job Summit decided that we should set up a commission. And the Job Summit also said our country needs to create, at the very least, 375,000 jobs a year. And when they made that recommendation to me, I was rather taken aback because I knew what the job crisis is in our country. And here you had a combination of business, labor, as in powerful trade union federations, as in community organizations, and as in government. And collectively, they came up with a report and a recommendation that we think this economy can only create 375,000 jobs. I had expected them to come with a recommendation that we will be able to create 1 million and more jobs. But I took it in my stride and thought that we would work harder to go beyond that 375,000. But that report having been issued, we then went on to implement it, to set up your commission. And that is when my trouble started, because I was then heavily criticized that all I ever do is to set up commissions. I'm not decisive. I set up commissions and don't do the work myself and all that. And I tried to explain in my defense that in setting up the commission, I have amassed the best brains in the country to do the work that needs to be done for the people of South Africa. But I was also at pains to explain that in the commission we have a commission that has the largest number of cabinet ministers as part of the commission. In fact, I would say even up to 80% of my ministers are part of this commission. And I had an outstanding deputy chairperson in the form of Vali Musa then, who had distinguished himself as a minister. Much as you could have had me as the chairman, he did most of the work, and later Crispian Olva has done the work. But I was still criticized, and you cost me that trouble as a commission. Now, the second criticism has come from overseas, because you have done your work so well and to get the country to focus on climate change. Now we are being criticized for having gotten the G20 to focus on climate change, and I'm being lampooned all over, globally even, and even being prevented from participating in the next G20. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. So you see, I try to do things and I get criticized. Now you are responsible. When I next go to Parliament to answer questions, I'm going to say, criticize this commission for its existence and the work it has done, and also getting us prevented from participating in the G20 2026. Colleagues, I'm really honored to attend this 20th session of the Presidential Climate Commission and to pay tribute to the outgoing commissioners whose work has elevated our country's voice as well as its stature in the global climate effort, much as climate issues have come under severe criticism, as our CEO was saying, as well as what Chipi Olva was saying as well. Since it was established 5 years ago, this commission has not only ably stewarded and shaped our domestic policy, as well as debates. The Commission's evidence-based recommendations based on science, and as well as the inclusive processes that you have embarked on, have made you to be respected internationally. As you have given thought leadership, and as you have engaged with a variety of role players, not only in our country, but also internationally. But what is most pleasing for me is that you have taken the trouble to engage with ordinary people in our country, local community people, and have even taken the trouble to go to where, for instance, some of our power stations are closing, and having had the time to engage with people at those community level. It would be no understatement to say that the past 5 years have been have seen our reputation grow as a respected, but also as a principled and above all pragmatic contributor to global climate efforts. Our voice has been raised, our voice is heeded, and our voice is respected. And wherever we go, whether we go as officials, whether we go as ministers, even deputy ministers, whether we go even at my level as president to attend a number of these summits, be it the COP summits and so forth, South Africa's voice is always sought out and it's always heeded. This is a feather that you have added to our cap as a country. And I applaud you because your work has been really impactful. Thank you so much for all your work. And I mean this very seriously. When former Minister Barbara Creasy, she's not here, used to attend those COP meetings, she used to be like followed by a whole number of people, ministers from other countries, because not so much because she's beautiful, of course, and not so much because of her standing, but it was the standing of South Africa that people wanted to hear. By convening business, labor, and civil society and academia, as well as government around the Just Transition Commission, you have helped to shape conversations around equity, transition financing, and the various dimensions of the climate action, not just domestically, but globally as well. The prominence accorded to a just transition at the recent G20 Summit bears testimony to this. The G20 leaders pledged to, amongst other things, to increase the quality and quantity of climate finance to developing economies and support country platforms like the Just Energy Transition Partnerships. We also saw substantial sums pledged to expand renewable energy across our continent. We know that these are challenging times for global climate action. 9 years since the signing of the Paris Agreement, and with just 5 years to go before the world aims to meet the Sustainable Development Goals, countries of the world are way off the track of achieving the climate goals. According to the World Meteorological Organization, last year was the warmest year on record. We are on a trajectory to exceed the 1.5 degrees Celsius warning limit. Despite this dire warning being sounded by experts for years, and other people obviously call it fake news, there has been noticeable climate action backsliding in a number of countries, including in the global north. The state of climate financing for vulnerable countries remains perilous, hampering the ability of those countries to scale up their levels of ambition for both mitigation and adaptation. In this ever uncertain environment, South Africa stands proud, and you are the ones, through the work that you have done and will continue to do, make us stand proud. We have not wavered on our commitments and have in fact scaled up our climate action. In July 2021, this commission delivered the first set of recommendations on South Africa's nationally determined contribution, our NDCs, advocating for more ambitious emissions targets with lower transition risk. A year later, based on recommendations from your commission, we released our Just Transition Framework, that sets out the actions that government and social partners will need to take to facilitate the transition to a low-carbon, climate-resilient economy and society. This contains outcomes to be achieved over the short, medium, as well as long term. And on the advice of this Commission, we have been clear that the just transition must find expression in the medium-term development plan, the annual performance plans, as well as in the budget processes of every department. Furthermore, sectoral policies, including around energy, agriculture, industrial policy, should be aligned with a robust climate regulatory system. The framework lays out the skills development component, the economic diversification process, the social support that will be needed, and the governance and finance mechanisms that are required to make low-carbon economy a real reality. It also highlights the need to provide comprehensive social security, safety for displaced workers and communities. This is an area that we have stressed over and over again. And you might well know that the added argument we've made is that we want a just transition, but this too will be done at our own pace, a pace that will take into account how our communities transit, because we should not leave our communities behind. That is important. In 2023, the Commission supported the release of the Just Energy Transition Implementation Plan 2023 to 2027. This plan developed under the guidance of the Commission and international partners in what we have been able to take to the international climate finance community and international forums as tangible proof of our resolve to walk the talk on climate action. It covers the necessary reforms, investments, and concrete projects for the energy transition with a strong focus on social justice. And you might well recall that we were the first of the bloc in terms of agreeing with international partners on a just energy transition. Other countries followed and merely copied and pasted what South Africa had crafted. And this should be a great applause to the work that you did as a commission, as well as the work that was done by government. We are pace setters, we are pioneers in more ways than we as South Africans ever recognize ourselves. In some ways, we always put ourselves down. We browbeat ourselves to just complete disgruntlement. And yet, what we do and do well is astounding, and it is recognized in other locales in the world. So for that, be kind to yourself and give yourself a nice round of applause. At COP30 in Brazil last month, having a credible, tangible plan in place to support meeting our climate targets bolstered South Africa's credibility and lent weight to our commitment to equity, ambition, and international cooperation. The passage of the Climate Change Act last year was really a crowning achievement for our country, one that was brought into being with the support of a wide range of stakeholders. Chippy Oliver calls it the whole of society. And this was phenomenal work, which was broadly consulted and which Cabinet finally signed off on. And this is not all. As we have worked to overcome a debilitating energy crisis, this Commission has lent its counsel to the restructuring of the energy sector, notably ESCOM, and to aiding government in resolving contradictory policy pronouncements. The Commission has initiated a 3-sector study into water, the built environment, and agriculture, and into the development of adaptation, resilience, and an investment plan. It has held consultations around the updated integrated resource plan, supporting the development of the municipal jet readiness assessments, and working on a climate finance landscape report. This is an extraordinary effort. For a mere 5-year period, the work that has been done is quite impactful. And what I have listed is by no means exhaustive. South Africa continues to be one of the most vocal voices, as I was saying, on the global stage for equity, inclusivity, and justice in the climate effort. And the work of this Commission has amplified our voice. Our climate diplomacy has focused on forging strategic partnerships as well as employing innovative approaches to scale up climate action whilst at the same time making the firm case for the development space and energy security needs of developing countries. The phrase, "leave no one behind," has underpinned the tone of our national effort. And as we mark the 5 years of the Commission, we are proud to say that the currency of this phrase continues to rise in the international climate deliberations. This is thanks to your work, because in many ways you gave full meaning to this phrase of leaving no one behind. When we established this Commission, we agreed that its mandate was to provide independent advice, and underline independent advice, and facilitate a common understanding of a just transition, cognizant of the socio-economic, environmental, technological implications of climate change. It was a response to a growing national consensus that South Africa's climate transition must be just, inclusive, responsive to the needs of vulnerable communities. The PCC has fostered inclusive dialogue and helped to negotiate solutions to some of the country's most complex and contested climate and development challenges. Through structured social partnering processes, you have helped to align diverse interests around common goals, such as the phase down of coal, investment in renewables, and the protection of livelihoods, ensuring that policy decisions are not only evidence-based, but are also socially legitimate and widely supported. Over the past 5 years, the PCC's engagements have helped to surface local priorities, to identify socio-economic risks, and co-develop solutions that reflect the realities on the ground. And I would say this is the South African way of doing things. We are a country that has paid due respect to the views of the key stakeholders in our country, our communities. And in the light of this, we are also embarking on a national dialogue that is very much in the tradition of what we've always sought to do to resolve crises and challenges that our country faces. Now, it has been an exciting 5 years, but they certainly haven't been easy years. While South Africans are feeling the impact of climate change, many still feel disempowered. We need to work a lot harder to allay their fears by co-creating models that include participation, decision-making, and implementation in the transition. That only happens when there are new jobs, new opportunities, reimagined local enterprises, and above all, when there is energy access for all, and when there is improved quality of life and a clean and safe environment for all. Now, with many stakeholders ready to and eager to be part and to contribute to achieving the just transition, we need stronger partnerships, increased awareness, and accessibility by our communities, made up of workers, young people, women, and with people with disabilities. By embedding sustainability, climate justice, and long-term resilience into planning and investment decisions, this Commission has contributed to securing a climate resilient and economically inclusive future for all, particularly for the young people of our country. As we look to 2026 and beyond, South Africa stands at an important point in its climate and development journey. The task now is to scale up and speed up implementation to deliver the outcomes our people need. And implementation should really be the operative word. Quite often, in a number of institutions, we take decisions and hardly ever implement, and if we do, we take forever to implement. This is the time when implementation needs to be put front of everything that we do. Now, today I take pride in recognizing the outgoing commissioners. Many of you did this work in addition to other responsibilities, and yet you have stayed the course, ensuring all decision-making was inclusive and consensus-based. Chippy, you are absolutely right. This decision-making process that was crafted during our negotiation process has been very, very handy and helpful in getting us as South Africans to model it around the world. And we have modeled it even at the G20 level, where we've tried to inculcate that type of decision-making, sufficient consensus decision-making, as part of the decision process that should be adopted. The G20, prior to Brazil, took decisions on consensus. If one disagreed, it meant that there was no decision. And we argued as we took over the chairship of the G20 that we should utilize a decision-making matrix or process that has served us well to be able to extricate our country out of apartheid oppression into democracy. Without using that tried and tested system of sufficient consensus, we would not have been able to reach here when we did. So it is a very good decision-making process that you take decisions with those who are in full consensus, but it must be consensus that is substantial. And those who dissent should be given the opportunity to voice their dissent. And with that, you should then be able to gauge whether there is sufficient consensus to move on to the next stage. We did that in Brazil when one of the countries dissented, and to a lesser extent, we utilized that also at the G20. And at the G20, which was held here, as you all will have witnessed, we adopted the declaration right in the first 30 minutes of the start of the summit, which was a great... So we have a tried and tested method of reaching agreements. Without this, people are often trapped, or organizations are often trapped in disagreement. They are paralyzed and they cannot take decisions. We do believe that this is a decision-making process we offer to the world. We've offered many solutions to the world, and this is but one of the few. We received the Commission's 5-year legacy and review report with deep gratitude. I have no doubt that it will, in time to come, serve as a seminal reference work, an important contribution to our domestic and international climate action efforts. You have done your country proud, and for this we are eternally grateful. As your chairman, I am grateful, and as always, you do the work and the chairman, and the president takes the credit. So that's fantastic. I am considering the nominations for the new cohort of commissioners and hope to announce their appointment in due course. I have the utmost confidence that the new commission will continue to put the vision we set for ourselves 5 years ago into practice. Now, as a country, we remain committed to moving forward with courage and determination to ensure that the just transition should leave no one behind. No woman, no man, no child should be left behind. And through the work that you have done, you've given real meaning to this concept that we came up with of leaving no one behind. So I do thank you dearly, and thank you for all the work and the dedication that you have shown. You have, as I said, succeeded in putting South Africa on a global platform in terms of our commitment to climate change, our ability to also have a voice. We have a voice in the community of nations, much as others would like to silence our voice. Our voice as South Africans will always be heard because it is respected. Thank you very much.
Brothers and sisters of Africa, give us your valuable thoughts about this video on the comment section below. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.